Hello, everyone. We are live with a live edition of the Five Star Joshi Show here on the Fight Game Media Network. I am your host, as always, Scott Edwards. Thank you for joining me. We are talking All Star Grand Queendom 2025 here today. If you are in the chat, if you're joining me from anywhere in the world, feel free to leave comments. Let me know what your thoughts were on the biggest stardom show ever. Over 7,500 people in attendance, the biggest attended show in company history. And as I have called it, and I've been preparing myself and hopefully others, the end of an era here in both Stardom and Joshi. Tomorrow starts a new era in the world of Stardom. But thank you, everyone, for joining me here today. It's always super exciting to jump on the live stream and get into the weeds of a show, especially a show that I think left so many people feeling so emotional and really satisfied with, again, pro wrestling as a whole. I think the beauty of what Joshi has brought us this year is continued greatness each and every single major show. It just feels that way. And it's one of those times where I say to myself, man, you're really missing out if you're not watching Joshi Wrestling. So thank you to everyone who is joining me here live. Thank you to anyone who watches on video on demand. It means the world to me. I'll have some nice guests on throughout the show to share their thoughts on the entire thing as well. So thank you for that. Before we get to the show itself and we get to the comments, because I'll be going through comments all the time. If you have questions, you have anything, I'll be happy to answer them as we go along. Now, youtube.com/at Scott E Wrestling. That is where the Five Star Joshi Show is each and every week on Fridays. I also am posting bonus content for this podcast over on the YouTube channel. Let's just say this week's going to be a lot of it. Okay. Okay. I will be clipping some of this show and putting it over there as well. I'm thinking the main event and the IWGP Women's Title will clip and put over there. But yeah, definitely go subscribe over there and check out what I've been doing for that channel. But I'm happy to be here once again on the Fight Game Media Network YouTube channel as we do for the live streams. It's always a blast to do. It's always a blast to return to, of course, where we've been doing this show for years now. So let's get to those comments. That last match broke me. That's from Neil Butler. Yannick with Rihanna. Okay. Show of the year from Mr. Mystic. Hello, everyone, from Fernando. Rian, again, where is the 4K Rian cam? Here we go. The GOAT is back. If that means me, that means a lot. So thank you. The show was fire. Greetings, salutations, all Stardom on fire right now. So thank you, everyone, again, for joining there in the live chat. Always exciting to be going and doing this show for all of you. So I'm not gonna slow us down. We're gonna get right to the card. Like I said, we're gonna have guests throughout the show. You know, guests that are usually on the show. It's always an absolute blast to do that. And we're gonna be talking a lot about the future of Stardom. I think that is very important after a show that featured a lot of finality to it, a lot of stories completing, for one wrestler, a career completing, of course, as well, with the career versus career main event and completing in a way that was only fitting of them. So let's get to it now, shall we? We're going to do our best, obviously, to stay on track. I like to go through the card, but as guest comes in, we'll kind of talk their overall thoughts on the show too, because I think that's always important. So we're going to start at the pre-show. That's what we do here. Sometimes we don't, but this was this was a meaningful one. I say that's what we do here, as if I always do that. But this time was obviously an important one, and that was the Stardom Rumble. We're not doing this camera. My apologies. We were at the Stardom Rumble. This was a very important Rumble because championship opportunities were on the line. Whoever won this match will get the opportunity to challenge for the Stardom Championship of their choosing. You had the likes of Momo Watanabe. Previously, Konami and Natsuko Tora were both in it, but they both had to be taken out due to poor health. Wishing them both the best. Obviously, always tough to miss a show or any shows, even tougher to miss the biggest show. So I'm wishing those two the absolute best. You had the likes of Miu Aasaki, Hanako, uh, Tomoki Inaba, and so on and so forth. So again, a list of very, very, very talented competitors, and I think we all kind of looked at Momo Watanabe as a potential winner. And ultimately, that was not the case. Momo Watanabe did not win this match. Momo Watanabe went from main eventer of All Star Grand Queendom 2024 against Micah for the World of Stardom Championship to the pre-show here in 2025, and she was pinned by Miu Aasaki. So obviously a big change from what she was previously doing. And I think it can be a tough pill to swallow if you are a Momo Watanabe fan and you're experiencing that in real time. So Hanako was the one to get the win. It became kind of clear to me after Miu Aasaki had done her eliminations, getting rid of both Watanabe and Inaba. I will give credit to both Azusa Inaba and Kyoko Kotatsu. Kotatsu back in this match, her first match since February. So good to see her return. You can kind of forget she was obviously a part of the roster, one of the main additions at the end of last year. I thought they had a fun back and forth within this match, which wasn't too shocking if from their time in GLEAT. They did the same thing there. So that was cool. But Hanako gets the win, winning with the JP coaster and pinning Miu Aasaki. And she made it very clear from that moment that she will be challenging for the Wonder of Stardom Championship. If you listen to my show, I expect more out of Hanako than maybe we've gotten so far. And she's had some signs here and there, but I don't think there could have been anything more apparent about this show and about the future of Stardom from this, then the future is now, right? The future is now. We are going, going, going. We are bringing in the future in full force with these championship matches because we have a World of Stardom championship match coming up as well soon enough. So Hanako will step up and step into the Wonder of Stardom title picture due to Mina Shirakawa previously holding the championship. That was a comment that they made here. So it is what it is. I will never fault a company for taking chances. That is something that I think more wrestling companies should do. And especially with how this show went and where we are going in the world of Stardom, you can't get upset with pushing newer talent. Now, Hanako should not win the Wonder of Stardom Championship. I don't even know if she's ready for said match, but I will say that she's definitely not ready to win said match. But that is the decision they made. If you missed the Rumble, you didn't miss much. You missed some sadness, maybe, in terms of being upset that Momo Watanabe came up short. But that is that. That is the Rumble. Let's get to really the main card here. And that, of course, started with the Future of Stardom Championship match. Hina versus Ronni Yagami. Like I said, thank you, Harkin. Iwatani Mayu is the GOAT. Well, trust me, I will say that about a million times on this show. Don't you worry. I think, honestly, when I was watching that Rumble, I was like, oh, Tomoka could win, right? We've kind of hinted at that white belt match time and time again. That could be a possibility. We've hinted at Momo, well, not we as in the company, but right? In terms of the storylines, it's more like we hopeful that maybe Saya Kamitani and Momo Watanabe makes a lot of sense. Konami made a lot of sense with the idea that Syuri was winning the IWGP women's title in my brain. Of course, she had to miss it. So they go with Hanako, and she will get her big shot. But let's talk about the future of Stardom Championship. Opening the show off strong was Hina versus Ronni Yagami. Like I said, the two God's Eye members. I think my biggest takeaway from this match is the strides that both of these wrestlers have made. I watch Hina, and obviously people instantly compare her to her sisters, right? You compare her to Reena, you compare her to Hana, and I think something important when doing comps like that is that one, it's unfair. Like plain and simple, it's unfair. I don't think any of those three are the same in whatsoever. They're all very different. They all have their own personalities, their own styles, their own skill sets. That being said, it's only natural because, of course, they're family. But when I was watching Hina in this match, I don't know why, but she's starting to remind me a lot of Micah. Obviously she does a frog splash, which Micah never does, but I think it's the way she holds her, carries herself, and the confidence she's gaining. I don't know, it reminds me of a young Micah a bit. You know, she's kind of a powerhouse. She kind of brings that side of things. So we'll see if that develops more. And obviously, Ronni Yagami is someone developing under Syuri and learning that style, and I think it's very apparent. So I think with these two, you pretty much got the best match you could to open the show. I think I always remember fondly back to Stardom Dream Queendom 2021, and that show opened with Hanan versus Ruaka for the Future of Stardom Championship. And I always remember that being such a bright point because one, you let the young wrestlers set the tone for the rest of the show. You obviously had a moment, but them setting the tone and not having to have a super duper long match, but a competitive, exciting match kind of again puts you on the right path. And I think that's exactly what these two did. They put you on the right path for Queendom. Again, it's not a blowaway match, it's not the greatest match of all time, it's not the greatest future star match of all time, but it accomplished its goal. And I think that's something you can appreciate, especially if you are watching along and you're a fan of either Hina or Rani Yagami or the future of Stardom. This really is the time to be paying attention to the future of Stardom. Um, Explains why I am a beast mode Hina fan. Yeah, Peps, you were part of the reason I thought of it. I knew you were a big fan of Hina, obviously, but it just made me think of it. Ray Ray's a lot of buzz that Watanabe should jump out of Stardom. Yeah, I mean that's not new. People have wanted her to jump for some time, or get pushed more, right? I think that's always a constant when it comes to this company, right? You want to see Momo succeed. The same goes with Hazuki. We'll talk about that. And obviously, that opportunity isn't always there. So I think that is important and something that you kind of follow along with. But we'll talk about Hazuki here in a second. Like I said, if you are watching live here on YouTube or Twitter or whatever, please feel free to leave your comments. I know we're all waiting for the bigger matches, so I get that. But I will be happy to answer them. If you have any questions, drop them there too. I will be sure to answer them. I will look at each and every comment, each and every question. We'll start to get pile guests in here soon enough. Next up, we had the Sayaka Carrara versus Tekla match. Okay, I'm just gonna be 100% honest. I was not looking forward to this match. I'm not gonna sit here and lie, because why would I lie, right? Why would I lie about my excitement for a match that I had none for? That being said, I had thought of the idea that maybe we get the Taro Okada match, and that's how we get to the final part of the story, which had to be Tekla being fired, right? She has been chaotic and attacking backstage personnel, and now she's attacking Okada, right? We had the spear in Las Vegas and so on and so forth. So I thought maybe that's where we're going. So I was kind of right. I just didn't think Sayaka Kara was going to get the free, not free, but going to get the clean win on TV. And I should have just thought of that too, because who are we pushing, right? It's about the future. Why wouldn't you give Sayaka Kara the Cinderella tournament winner and your next challenger for the World of Stardom championship, mind you? Why wouldn't you give her a big win of some sort? Now, I will say this. Um, the match was just there for me. Admittedly, this was also at the same time that Jungle Kiona had returned to the ring in Nagoya, and I was very concerned. 5 minutes. She obviously had her knee problem, so I was very focused on that. So I'll be 100% with you. I remember very little of this match. I know Tekla was in Taro's face the whole time. Um, I know Taro was kind of hilarious on the mic when Tekla lost. Like, I just thought that was very funny. Um, and ultimately, she just lost, which was kind of funny. And she's going to join the Cosmic Angels. She gets pissed off and she goes and gets Taro, right? She starts beating him up in the ring and they all hold her back and she's fired. That was the story here. Tekla was fired from Stardom. It's over. If you don't like her, she's gone. It's done. I don't think this is necessarily a storyline where she's going to come back around. Unless she's maybe part of another company. I think this was it. If you've been paying attention to the house shows, if you've been paying attention to the tour, she mostly missed a lot of them over the past couple months. If you paid attention to that, she was on the Corkins for the most part. Corkins, pay-per-views. Just enough to continue the story. And when you saw in Las Vegas, Micah and Tekla embrace, I think everyone said, hold on, that's that's interesting. And now we know why. Tekla is gone from Stardom. If you had to ask me right now, she's going to America. She's been very open about this. She's been very apparent about this. She wants to go to America. She's said it in so many interviews. So I'm wishing her the best. Good luck wherever you go, whether it be WWE, TNA, AEW. I don't know where you're going, but good luck. Good luck. And she's been in Japan for years now. It's not just in Stardom. She's been in Japan for years. This has been her life. This has been where she's lived. She's 31 years old. She's been in Japan pretty much since 2019 as part of Ice Ribbon, made the jump to Stardom in 2022. And she's done probably all she's going to do in these companies, right? You're not going to push her over, obviously, the long-term stars. So I wish Tekla the best. Good win for Sayaka Karara. And yeah, Sayaka Karara is challenging for the World of Stardom Championship. Let's get through the comments first, then we'll bring in our first guest. Let's see. Yeah, Murph, Tekla and Karara. Yeah, no, I was not locked in. I will not lie to you. This was the one match. Well, no, there was a second match during the show. I wasn't locked in. I went back and watched it. But yeah, like I said, with Jungle Kiona, trying to wrestle and come back here. Obviously, very focused on that, and that was all successful. I'll talk about that on my other show next Friday. So yeah, it was hard to pay attention to this, but you kind of locked in once Karara won, and it's like, okay, here we go. What's the story, right? Because she's in Cosmic Angels now. That's not going to happen. This is just not going to happen. It doesn't make sense. Oh, okay. I like this. So this is from Big Fat Orange Cat. I've been trying to get into Stardom for around 7-8 years now. I would try and catch, watch, and match two. Never will catch a full show or watch consistently for a number of different reasons. Now, after happily attending their American Dream and Sin City show this year, last night was the first major shows there as I watched live and in full. One of the best wrestling shows I've ever seen. That's the type of stories I really do love to see. So thank you for sharing that, especially because I had talked about the American Dream shows and I had said they were there for the people there. More importantly than anything, those shows were for the people going to Las Vegas to see their favorite Stardom wrestlers in action, right? The matches weren't going to be these blow-away masterpieces that we saw in this show because we were building to the show, but it was an opportunity. It was an opportunity to see some of your favorites and see Stardom live, and I appreciated that. And hearing you say that tells me it worked, so that's great to say. I think I speak for everyone when I say I'm glad this storyline is over. Couldn't agree more. Edward, congrats on Tekla making history, being in two factions and jobless in the same night. That is true. That is what happened. I rewatched Grand Queendom 2023 recently to prepare for the show. 23 had more quality in the lower card, especially with Fua and Maysara being involved. Yeah, I remember that. Maysara was the one that won the Rumble, if I'm not mistaken. And then Fua-chan, obviously the famous wrestler, was part of a tag team match. So this undercard was kind of more storyline based, right? It wasn't for the match. It wasn't for the quality more so than, again, a lot of finality to this show. And you felt that. You felt that from start to finish. This was part of that. Do you think, or do you see Tekla in AEW, or she rejoins Julia in WWE? I would expect one of the two. AEW, I feel more likely about, but I don't really know. I think Julia needs backup in NXT. She needs to start a faction down in Orlando. I think she just got called up to the main roster. So I don't know, but I don't. Main event, Sayaka Kurara Yeet. Oh no. Oh no. Don't do that to her. Don't compare her to Jey Uso. That's just mean. Saruga was in the Azmi May SLK Serum. Thank you. You're right. That was great. That was a great match. That was the May Sarah return match. My apologies. See, this is why I have people in the chat helping me out, because my brain is on 2 hours of sleep. The GCW Tekla vs. Joey Janela match review on RPR will be a classic. No, don't. No, didn't. No, don't even put that in the universe for me. If Mariah Ray returns to AEW, she should return with Tekla. Yeah, that'd be a good one. That would be an interesting story. All right, let's get our first guest in here now. Been on the show a few times now, was on my Cinderella tournament preview over on my YouTube channel and the 5 Star Joshi Show 2 months ago. Absolutely nailed the bracket. Picked Sayaka Kurara versus Reena in the finals. Absolutely nailed it. Made me look like the idiot. So that appreciate it. You'd think I wouldn't bring someone that made me look dumb back. But I digress. Was on the Dream Queendom review as well at the end of last year. So thank you. Welcome back to, wait 1 second. I gotta get the right thing. Welcome back, String Six Splash. How are you today, my friend?
Hey, Mr. Edwards, I'm doing pretty well. Hello to everyone in the chat. The comments seem to be on fire right now. The sad truth is that Stardom makes us all look like idiots eventually. So you got out ahead of things, and now we just have to talk about this show, which was an achievement in many, many senses of the word. And I think it might even double as like a group therapy session. This is not just a live stream. So let's just get into it and see where things land.
For sure. I would ask you, what were your thoughts on the show overall? I think you kind of gave a sneak peek of like, oh, it was here and it was here, and it was like, it's one of those things where you go through every emotion on this show, and I think for different people, different matches, you may have felt every bit of emotion. Probably for a lot of people, the main event, obviously. But I think the beauty of this show as well, it was the end of a lot. You hope it's the beginning of so much more, right? You hope it's the beginning of so much more for this promotion and for a lot of these wrestlers who will now try to pave their name in history. So I think that'll be an interesting part of this. So I will ask you, what were your thoughts on the overall show, in terms of the pacing of the show, which was really long, so much so that it cut off on Samurai TV in Japan, like midway through the main event, which is not good. What are your thoughts on the pacing? What are your thoughts on just the overall show? Because obviously I don't want to I mean, I'm not going to spoil the end here. We know what happened, but you feel free to talk however you please about this show.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. A very, very lengthy show. One thing that was quite different about this show is I'm used to Stardom shows really being comprised of like a high volume of tag matches and then being punctuated by big singles matches. And this was the inverse. We had just a couple of tag matches to sort of stand out from the standard style. They did make some compromises in the scheduling and the time frame. They had to snip some things a little bit shorter, particularly entrances. And then if I'm not mistaken, I think the 3 top matches of the card all got microphones, but I don't believe anything else really did. So they did what they could, but they still gave the in-ring action a fairly healthy amount of time across the board. And they covered a lot, as you said, storytelling wise. I go back to my statement about the achievement. This is an achievement in ticket sales, in promoting the company, in live performance. Some of these wrestlers had to deal with the unexpected in their matches, and they handled it and improvised so extremely well. And it was an achievement in storytelling and setting the table for the rest of the year. So my thoughts are all over the place. The show was kind of all over the place. We had some imminent departures. We have some probably departure announcements coming very shortly as well. So it's still something that's settling for me in my mind to talk about. But there are a lot of things to congratulate at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's one of the difficulties of looking at this show and trying obviously to celebrate the show, but also it's hard to not look at the future. It's hard to not look at the what's to come, the possibilities, where this company goes, even without just Tam, right? Without Tam, it's instantly like, okay. But it goes beyond that. We'll talk about that. But that's why we're doing this review, right? We're here to celebrate today and we'll figure out tomorrow, literally tomorrow, right? So we're gonna do our best to do that. We'll talk about tomorrow because I can't not talk about it. But I think you absolutely put it all together very well. I think this show, especially in the early going, I don't want to say struggled to get off the ground because I think they accomplish everything they set out to do. But there's a very clear pivot from, oh, this is, this is fine. This is kind of similar to a Stardom pay-per-view that we'll see on any other day too. Oh, this is the biggest show of the year. Like, right there is a very clear direct pivot when we get there, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But let's now talk about, because you're here. I know I sometimes change this up. I sometimes have you just like throw all your comments at once, or so on and so forth. I'll have you join me for a few match reviews. I think that's a little bit more important because everyone obviously wants to talk about Yumika Hoda versus Reena. I mean, that's why we're all here, right? My biggest takeaway from this is, one, Reena looked good in the match, which is always important. She's a star, right? You talk, and again, a lot of things finishing at the show, but a lot of things also projecting to the future. You look at Reena, you know she is going to be the future of this company one way or the other, right? We have seen it being built for the past year. New Blood Tag Team titles, future Stardom title, the Wonder of Stardom title challenge, the finals of the Cinderella tournament. They have gotten fully behind Reena without crowning her Wonder of Stardom champion yet. They've done everything they probably could to elevate her from future to now. And I think that's very, very important, because they put her in there with a legend. Yumika Hoda is a legend, multi-time Triple WH champion. Is that the right one? I think so. That's definitely not how you say it, but it is. Multiple time. I think she's tied for like the third most reigns in history, from AJW back in the day. And the story was very simple. Reena doesn't want All Japan Women's to be the talk of the town anymore. She's done. She's moved on. Enough. She wasn't even alive for this wrestler when she was in her peak. Like, not like there's a 40-year difference. And ultimately the match went exactly how I expected. Hoda was gonna be Hoda, and it was really going to be down to Reena showing something, and that's kind of what they accomplished. I think the important part of this match was you got Reena on the show in a signature singles match. That tells me more than anything, right? No offense to Momo Watanabe fans, but when you get a signature match, it's because they're focused on you. They're focused on your direction, where you're going. So I had no problem with it. I have fun with it for the most part. Obviously would have loved for Reena to win because, again, we are building, but I knew how this was going. Aja Khan came in last year and beat Tam. Like this, this is what happens. This is what happens. So Reena at 18 years old losing isn't as bad when you look at that in looking back into time and remembering that. So obviously would have loved Reena to win, but it is what it is. It was a fun little match. No, not many problems. Not many problems. I know like two legends won on this show, but we'll get to that in a second. What were your thoughts on it?
Well, I'm always down to talk Reena in Stardom, build up the hype, fill up the respect threads for Reena. However, this match, was one of the easier ones to predict ahead of time. And I believe Yumiko Hotta is about 58 years old, something like that. So she didn't actually generate a ton of offense. However, they landed a superplex spot. So anybody that can perform a superplex at 58, I've got to give some applause to. It's always fun to get Reena chance. She tried to cheat in every conceivable fashion, and many hate members joined in the fray. So it got to be this sort of like 1-on-5 sort of type of brawl. So I found that kind of fun. The ending was kind of so-so with the quick submission, but there's not a ton to say about this match compared to the other ones. But I had a decent amount of fun with it, and it's always cool to see Reena. Also, new gear alert. We had a few new gear alerts, and Reena is the first one we'll mention.
Yeah, I expected a few more new gear alerts for sure. But yeah, I definitely will say in terms of the finish, it could have went different. So much so that I looked down for like 2 seconds. I looked back up and it was over, and I was like, "Did she get hurt? Like, what happened?" Because it ended so quickly. I was like, "What did I miss?" And like, when I went down and went up, and it was over. I was like, "Hold on, is everything okay?" And then she was fine, thankfully. But yeah, this was it was what it was. I'm sure a lot of people probably didn't enjoy it. Um, Today, Park 14, I will get to your question here in a little bit. We will talk plenty. This feels like the Raw after WrestleMania and Star a New Beginning, a time of ascension for a lot of Joshi talent that's long overdue. I think that's very well said. So thank you for that. I will say, in terms of Reena, I said this in the lead up. I don't think a loss here matters because I think if you can get her momentum back by the summer, you get her in her first 5-star Grand Prix, and she has a great showing, you'll be set. You'll be set. I think that's kind of my mindset heading into that. But like I said, if you are in the chat, if you're joining us anywhere, please, 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 please feel free to leave comments, concerns, thoughts, anything over on this show. Like I don't always make people review match by match by match, so String, I will not make you do that. However, I will give you a few matches of not Reena versus Yumiko Hoda to really dig your teeth into before that, and we'll get some of your thoughts on the main event stuff after as well. Next up was the final Stardom match for Mako Satomura in Sendai Girls. In Stardom, obviously her final match is on the 29th, so in 2 days, Mako Satomura is done. Her career is over. This is a legend, former World of Stardom champion. Her title reign was very important to the company back in 2015. Which reminds me, shout out to my guy Walker Stewart, absolutely crushing it on the commentary. I talked to him a few times in the lead up to the show. I thought he absolutely crushed it, especially for being solo on a show for most of it. I know Waka was there, kinda. She was there in and out. But shout out to my guy Walker. I'll give him another shout out by the end of the show. But what a talent he is, and obviously, I can feel that he cares. He wants to make it the best he can. And considering they don't have him on as many Stardom shows, and I'm sure he'd want to be, right? I'm sure he'd want to be there for Path of Thunder. I'm sure he'd want to be there for more of these shows, not just, oh, you're here for WrestleMania week. All right, do these, right? Oh, you're here for Dontaku, and this is the biggest show of Stardom Heroes. We want Walker on these more, so we got to shout him out. We got to give him credit. He did a great job, and maybe I'll have a partner next time. But yes, Mako Satomura, her one World of Stardom title defense, beats Kairi Hojo to win it, defends the title against Mayu Iwatani, and of course drops it to Io Shirai, who started her historic red belt reign. So a very important title reign in the company's history. She, of course, faced the Cosmic Angels, Sari Ano, Natsupoi, and Aya Sakura. And this match was built around Aya Sakura, which brought a big smile to my face, because I was like, oh, they'll probably work to Sayori and Mako, right? That was the big singles match return for Mako and Sendai Girls at the end of last year. Maybe they'll focus on that. Maybe they'll focus on Poi, Ano, and Awada, obviously with a lot of history. But no, it was about Aya Sakura, the Sendai Girls World Junior Champion, someone that I know myself and many others believe is a true future star for this company. and the crowd was all in for her. So they loved her, which was awesome. It's one of those key moments, I think, from the entire show where you really notice the crowd. And I thought the crowd was fine. Again, it's a big building, so like kind of expected. I actually would love to talk to someone who's in the building. How much louder were they? Because we've always been through these things with Stardom. Sometimes you can't fully hear them, but you heard them here, and that was great. So that was really cool for Aya Sakura. Mako Satomura ends up pinning her in the end, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that because this is a legend who is retiring, still kind of at the top of her game, right? Like this is Mako Satomura after all, and I had no problem with it. She gave Aya a lot. Aya looked like a star. I was kicking and kicking. Like I just feel like probably before this match, Mako was like, "Kick me as hard as you can," and she was like, all right, say less. And they absolutely crushed it. This was a lot of fun. I feel like this was the start of the card, kind of taking a jump up, right? Taking a jump up to, okay, now we're going. Obviously, the next match, which that'll be the main one I obviously talk with you because I think that's kind of really the kickoff to how great this show ended up being. But this was fun. This was fun. And you only had one undercard tag. So it was actually kind of like nice in the middle of the card, I thought, right? Because like you said, what you're used to with the Stardom pay-per-views is like one undercard tag, two undercard tag, three undercard tag. This one stood out, and I thought there was a lot of fun. And it'll be fascinating to see what the Cosmic Angels look like now without Tam, because I can't imagine it. I'm not gonna lie to you. It just isn't something my brain can put together. But what are your thoughts on this trios match?
Yeah, really liked this match. Love the Aya Sakura chants. Probably the loudest chants she's gotten in her career, and some of the loudest chants that we could perceive, as you mentioned, across the internet. Not exactly a one-for-one experience. Another new gear alert. Aya Sakura in some really cool gear. And she actually had this cool team-up move with Natsupoi, where Poi did some kind of like wheelbarrow, lift the person up. Aya Sakura kicked them back down, and Poi did this kind of rollover pin attempt, which I thought was really cool. Another really great moment for Aya Sakura was right at her last stand against Mako. Mako had that primal battle cry, trying to just wake Aya back up, even though she was pretty much out for the count. And that got the crowd going, and everyone was cheering for Aya in those final moments. So that was all really, really cool. One thing I think I spotted is, unfortunately, it looks like Natsupoi may have taken some kind of wrong turn and was limping and hobbling. She had to duck out of most of the remainder of the match from there, and you could kind of see the communication on the sidelines. So I hope she's okay. She just came back from, I believe it was some kind of ankle problem. So it's definitely unfortunate, but they did a wonderful job keeping the match afloat. And as you said, this was really where things started to build up in terms of your adrenaline. You started to pay a little more attention and get into it. And one last thing is the Mika Iwata and Natsupoi back and forth was really cool, I thought. And so I'm curious if they will be able to carry that over. One of the things I would like to know about is what future sort of Sendai Girls crossovers will we see? Will we see another competitor from Sendai Girls in this year's 5-star? So I'm starting to think maybe Natsupoi and Mika Iwata might carry over the, never-ending rivalry of last year with Sauriano. So who knows?
Yeah, as long as we don't do as many matches, I'm all for it. There was so many last year. I think there was 5 last year, which is just so much between that and Sendai Girls. But yeah, I think I was gonna save it for Hash and Micah, but we'll talk about it now. I do wonder how much crossover there will be moving forward, right? Because again, in many ways, this felt like the final blow between the two. But you wouldn't expect Stardom to go for 2 and just move on from the story either, right? They dropped both matches on this show. When I saw Yuna in this match, who takes a ton of losses, I really thought that was going to be the path for the Cosmic Angels to win, and then Hashimoto would win that match, and 1-1, call it a day. But now it's definitely different. I think we could probably see them still turn up on some Sendai Girl shows and vice versa for sure.
And we're still waiting on that Aya Sakura title defense. I want someone to step up and challenge her because it's just so badass that she's a champ right now. I want to see her enter the ring as a champ and dust off a couple of competitors.
Yeah, and I think that also helps the cause, right? Like that relationship isn't going to go away, right? Aya is holding the belt, so that's a good sign. It's just a matter of will we? I don't think we're going to see Hashimoto as much, right? Because she's kind of the more monster protected wrestler. But Awada, I think you're absolutely right. Like maybe you see something with her and Natsupoi continuously coming in. Maybe Minami comes back around, obviously being in the 5-star last year. I love Eureka Oka to get a shot. She got her one match on the cork, and I was very happy. But yeah, there's a lot of talent there. So there's still a lot of meat on the bone to Stardom versus Sendai Girls. It's just a matter if they want to continue with it or not. The copyright for Mako's final Stardom entrance bothered me tremendously. Oh my gosh, yes. Yes, this broke my heart actually. Because thankfully, we got Chiro Hashimoto's theme song, which is great. But when we didn't get Mako's, I was devastated. I was like, oh no, this is why. And I was like, oh well, I know they're on TV, Samurai TV, so you can't play the song. But I was like, why not? Like, why not just play it a little? Like the Hoda one, I was like, that's fine. But it hit me when the Mako one was just muted. I was like, no, that's tough. Bio's Joshi Bar, Reena is 100% the future. You're absolutely right. I know nothing about Stardom. Teach me, but I do watch New Japan. We will do our best to teach you, Jeremy. That is what this show is here for. Thank you for joining us. I think Sayaka is trying to make a case to lead Cosmic Angels, but with Tam, Mina, and Unagi out full time, maybe there shouldn't be a Cosmic Angel. I think that's definitely an interesting conversation. Maybe that's one we have right now before we move on to one more match. What? The insane thing is that they're just muting them on pay-per-view. Samurai TV is playing them. That doesn't even make sense then. Why? Oh, that's so much worse. That hurts me. Oh, well, I didn't want to know that. I like the idea that they were on TV, so that's why. So that hurts. I think there is a fascinating conversation for Cosmic Angels moving forward, right? And there's a lot of conversations for a lot of factions moving forward. But this is the big one because the leader's gone. Poof, gone into the darkness as she promised. Thank you, Tam, for holding up your end of the bargain. You are always consistent. I'll give you that. You tell us what's going to happen, and it happens. But now, like, it's over, right? The Cosmic Angels didn't get to say bye to her. Like, none of that happened. There's no ceremony. She's gone. So it's like, what's next? This is the most unique version of this to happen. And again, it's Tam. What would I expect? I wouldn't expect anything less than unique and different and new. But I sit here and I ask myself, what is next for the Cosmic Angels? I think the instant go-to is you just have Sayori Poi lead together, right? I think that makes a lot of sense. But Tam was the Cosmic Angels. Much like Mayu Iwatani is Stars, right? It's the same situation, and we are kind of in the situation now, it truly feels like, and I'll talk about it, where those two staples, the longest running factions, mind you, left in Stardom, are very, very, very up in the air. So I ask you, what would you do with Cosmic Angels? Is there anyone you would add? Is there one person you give leadership to for sure? I don't think they'll end it, one, because Cosmic Angel sells all the merch, brother. They're not getting rid of that. Like, they're not going to let that disappear. I know Tam sells a lot of merch, but the Angels as a whole sell a lot of merch. But is there a direction you see that feels most fit? Maybe it's Carrara. Maybe you just go big with the Cinderella winner. If she wins the World of Stardom title, though, I swear to God, that's not gonna happen. That's I think. But they did end. I do have to say this. Do you remember when we did the Cinderella tournament preview and I said she should challenge Saya Kamitani after Tam fails? I nailed it, kinda. I just was wrong otherwise because it was very confusing how we got here. Because she faced Saya before that, so I was like, oh, that's over. But no, we're gonna come back around to it. So what would you do with Cosmic Angels without Tam around?
Yeah, gigantic question, because this is leaping forward to the events of the main event, and as you mentioned, that utterly unique and really creatively rich ending to this show. The decision to end the biggest show of all time on such a quiet and contemplative moment, And as dark as it was visually, with the Dark Phoenix Queen and the feathers falling from the sky, there was somehow a way that Tam made that feel somewhat hopeful for the future. So if we are keeping Cosmic Angels together, if we need to continue selling the merch, as you mentioned, I think Saori Poi as joint leaders really keeps a strong character dynamic at the top. You have a little bit of push-pull between their personality traits, and they have their 10th anniversary special show that they're putting on coming up in the month of May. Maybe they can do something there to really solidify their positioning. And what lingers on, the shadows of Tam Nakano, the debris of the Tam Road dispersed across the landscape. I think some of that will carry over to, or I guess this is what I would do, to Sayaka Kurara. She's already been taking up the microphone and injecting more storytelling into the things she's doing. She's very confidently stepping forward. So I think that storytelling base of the group will be rooted in Sayaka. And not to get too far ahead, but we did see traces of Tam Nakano, in a sense, transfer over to Saya Kamitani herself. So I think other aspects of Tam's storytelling, the move set, will have echoes into future matches potentially. So I think we start there and we keep selling that merch and we see how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, the Saya part of this will be very interesting. Because, you know, I think someone asked a great question. I don't know who it was. I just saw it on Twitter. It was a great question of like, how does hate just like accept that after the fact? Will they just be like, wait a minute, you're crying and celebrating? What is this? Right? I think that's an interesting story point from there. That being said, I wouldn't change anything about Saya Kamatani right now because there's, you know, it takes two to tango to sell the biggest ticket in Stardom history, and she is very much presented as the top star. But maybe you're onto something. Maybe they say, okay, now we pivot her to being the face of the company overall, babyface wise as well. I think that's a fascinating idea. Let's get to the comments here. My bias is going to show because I'm a big Nazi Boy fan. She should lead. Similar to Julia DDM to me. There's no DDM without Julia. There's no Cosmic Angels without Tam. LIJ without Naito. Yeah, but these tickets, not tickets, merch though, guys. I'm guessing New Japan doesn't get rid of LIJ for that example. I remember the whole reason Unimon is in Cosmic Angels is from her rehearsing the dance. By that rationale, stars should dissolve as well without the icon. Well, but buddy, I think stars is dissolving for many reasons besides that, based on that tag title match and how personal and nasty that was. But we'll talk about that. Kozin should die, but I think we will wait and see how much they sell without Tamu. Oh man, you guys are killing me. All right, everyone wants Cosmic Angel gone. All right, well, I mean, they won't do the dancing and stuff anymore. That was a Tam classic, you know? Like, when they all came out for this match, right? They just hit a pose and walk down to the ring. Now, that could be part of the entrances, but, you know, they don't really dance when Saori begrudgingly has always never wanted to dance to begin with. But yeah, it's one of the fascinating things to follow now moving forward. But let's get to just, I had high hopes for this. The moment it said no disqualification, I said, you know, we could go to a level. We could go to a certain level with this match. Now, I will say this. I was worried going into the regular match that there would be disqualification. Like, I thought that would be a way to cut time. I kind of brought up the New Eras versus 7-Up one from 2 years ago. As many people know, that ended with a count out, right? It was kind of like, oh, that's not right. It was really bummer. And it was a way to save time as well. And I was like, oh, do they want to save time on this card? The answer was no. They did not want to save time, which again, great for me because I want all these matches to get their chance to breathe and tell their own stories. But these two went above and beyond the Call of Duty. This was Suzu Suzuki saying, I am back. This was Suzu Suzuki, which we've been seeing parts of, I think, this year, right? I really do love the Saya Kamatani title match. I really do love that she is now leading her own faction in Mi Vida Loca. But until she had that crimson mask in Stardom, it wasn't going to be Suzuki. And boy, oh boy, did she get it. And I think who deserves maybe even more credit is that of Maysara. This is not her ballpark. She is not someone that goes out there and is bleeding buckets, right? That is not what she does. And yet, the amazing image at the end of this match told us these two went to war. These two made this as personal as you could, and they had one hell of a match. If people walked away from this show saying this was their favorite match, now it didn't have the emotional factor I think of two others, but if you walked away with this being your best match, your favorite match of the show, I wouldn't even question you because this was tremendous. Maysara and Suzuki absolutely tore it down. They brought in violence, they brought in high speed, they brought in storytelling, they brought in every single bit that you wanted. And I just need to say, I don't know if like there was a competition in the back of who could hit someone harder. But boy, oh boy, Suzuki was trying to prove that she was going to hit the hardest on this show. I meant to say in the Hoda Reena match, that was the first headbutt of the night, by the way. We got one in that. Boy, oh boy, we got 70, 100 more from here. I think Tam and Saya alone out counted the whole show with how many headbutts they had, and I sat there cringing and hoping everyone was okay. I was like, I know it's your last match, one of you, but it's not for the other one. Chill out. But yeah, how did you like this match? Again, I thought it was top tier, one of the very best that Suzu's had. One probably the best I think Maysara's had in Stardom. I mean, with either this or the Hazuki one from last year. Last year that I really really love. Those are the two that stand out. But I thought this was tremendous. And when you use blood at the right times, it elevates, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, there's something funny about this, which is if we went back a week and we were like, one wrestler on this show is going to revitalize a top rope finisher that they haven't done in about 2 years, your first choice would not be Suzuki. So that did surprise me a little bit because
it was great though.
It was cool, and it was a real as badly beaten as Maysara was and as heartbroken as she was. I have to say, like, there's almost no more sympathetic wrestler than a heartbroken Maysara. So from a character standpoint, you know, I can't really support Suzu in this battle. I'm fully behind Maysara just as the storytelling is concerned. But they treated this almost like it was a 5-star final, or it was at the very least the opening night of the 5-star. They didn't treat this as just a special singles match on a Stardom pay-per-view. So as you said, if someone chose this as their favorite match, I can't fault them in the slightest. It really took the show to an elevated level for a lot of reasons. This was another match where the wrestlers had to make adjustments because I think for both of them, they started bleeding way more profusely than they maybe had expected. And from there, they showcased why this was an anticipated first ever singles match between two competitors. There were so many cool sequences. I can't tell you exactly the sequence, but just go back and look for the one that had the most reversals. It was one person ducking the other, reversing a pinfall attempt, countering a different move. And it was just so seamless. And it really emphasized the familiarity that they have as formerly being one of the top tag teams in Crazy Star, and how much they wanted to, they put everything into this match that they could. Maysara sustained all of Suzuki's offense. Suzuki sustained all of Maysara's offense. In a sense, they put each other way over by doing so, because it took more than everything to put an end to this match. And just once again, Suzu is really dastardly for what she's been doing to Maysara. But in truth, in the reality, you know, they both accomplished something really, really, applause worthy.
Yeah, I will say one thing that I was thinking about when this match was just happening is I feel like last year, this is one of those matches that Taro and the bookers are putting off a little further, right? They're moving it down the line. Oh, let's have it be a special number 2 or number 3 match instead of the number 6 match on this card, right? So that, when we have a pay-per-view next month, we have something to look forward to. Instead, they put this on the show, they gave it the proper time, the same amount of time, and it was able to stand out by itself because there was nothing that was going to match this in terms of what they set out to do. And like you said, I mean, it's really weird because Suzuki's not a heel necessarily. She is kind of that tweener that I've said is now kind of finally replacing DDM from back in the day, right? It's just kind of like, oh, they're just kind of badass. But when you're beating Maysara up like this, you are a heel to me. You made Maysara cry at Korakuen, and now you're doing this to her. Yeah, that just nasty business, but all the right business. They absolutely crushed it. I was almost emotional seeing Suzu just get back to this because this is Suzuki. This is the wrestler that when she signed with Stardom, everyone said, well, that's one of the faces of the company moving forward. That was what this was. So congratulations to her. Congratulations to Maysara. They absolutely crushed it. Let's get to those comments here. Cosmic Angels aren't the same without the OG trio. Hasn't been the same since they stopped. That's true. That's true. I like to see Hazuki join Mi Vida Loca as Suzu enforcer. Yeah, that was one that made sense. That was one that made sense. Props to May for holding up her end in a match that was squarely in Suzu's wheelhouse. Yeah, I think that was the most interesting part, right? They changed it to a no DQ, and as I want to give credit to Walker again, he really focused on that. He's like, this is not helping Maysara. This is not her thing, right? She's the high speed champion. They weren't doing that. Instead, they went down the Suzu path, and she stepped up. So shout out to her. Justin Stein, it feels like Syuri booked the show. How many headbutts they were on? Yeah, no, we knew she was there. She was just like, listen, I have an idea, headbutts, and we got them. The shock factor of seeing May bleeding like that was big. I agree. When she got cracked with the steel chair, I said to myself, I think we're gonna need that color from you too, May. I'm sorry. Well, Suzu was already bleeding at the time and living her best life. Someone, I think it's big fella thanks on Twitter said maybe a week ago or whenever this match was announced, when Suzu starts bleeding, let it kind of be what activates her, right? Activates the Suzu, and that's exactly what happened. So shouts out to that call. Let's do a German off the top rope. Yeah, we got that. That was pretty nasty. Shouts out to May and Suzu for doing that as safely as they did, while also having looked terrible. Suzu treated Maysara like all the mean people on Twitter who talked about us. Yeah, to the people to being mean to Suzu, stop. I've had enough. She does not deserve that. Shout out to Suzuki. I hope she's doing well outside of the wrestling ring. Obviously, she's absolutely crushing. She's absolutely killing it this year. She deserves so much support. And I'm just glad Suzu has something to do. Her and Syuri are both incredible. Suzu's back in her element. Her and May both delivered. Absolutely agree to all of that. We're gonna kind of kick it into the next match. We'll give your because I know that String Six Splash has a live review tonight that everyone's going to need to check out. So I don't want to make you review the entire show. I want everyone to go check that out. There's been some great reviews today. I know the Stardom cast had one as well earlier today. You're going to have one later. 3 parts in a row. Shouts out. All different thoughts. I think that's very cool. So obviously we're going to be talking the tag, not the tag team match. We're going to be talking Hashimoto and Micah next. But before we get there, I will let you kind of give your overall overarching thoughts on really the rest of the card here, the big 5 title matches. And of course, thank you for joining me. And then we'll do the plugs and stuff after that. But what was your thoughts from here, right? Maysara and Suzuki set the tone of, okay, now we're going here. What match or how did you like the final 5? What was your favorite match? And, we'll give thoughts about, the Tams and Mayus maybe at the end.
Sure thing. Yeah, really hard to pick a favorite match, and I knew that going into this show. I feel like in my mind, I'm trying to separate out the greatest emotional moments and also the greatest in-ring stuff, and I still haven't really come to a consensus. In-ring, I really like The Wonder of Stardom title match, Starlight Kid and Azumi. Yeah, huge shock about that. Maysara and Suzuki as well. Those are two really strong standouts. Emotionally speaking, seeing Shuri's really, really deeply emotional reaction to her results against Mayu and seeing the crushing defeat in that IWGP championship match way up there. And of course, everyone is probably not going to be surprised that the ending of the show was just absolutely killer in terms of the emotions. And I don't mean like, oh yeah, this rocks. I just mean just brutal to see so much humanity from Saya Kamitani. I feel like that main event was as much about her as it was about Tam Nakano. And yeah, I guess I'll get into it later on in the evening, perhaps. But the levels of depth to what was going on with Saya and how Tam wanted to craft the artistry of closing that show, that you almost can't help just like waking up in the morning and thinking back to that, seeing people's great photography of that moment and reflecting on it, and just how unique and how much it stood out from just about anything you'll see in wrestling. So those are several highlights. I also want to say that one thing about this event is it created a whirlpool of oncoming changes and evolution to the company. But if I'm not mistaken, I think we only had one literal title change on the show. So the fact that they could do that and raise so much intrigue and so much interest without just doing shock title changes one match to the other. We flash back 2 years ago, every single title changed on that show. And that was a great topic of conversation at the time for where Stardom was at. But what they're doing now is almost deeper. It's about characters. It's about connections and bonds within the factions. It's about people splitting apart. Another real standout is just the brutality of the Goddess of Stardom tag match, and the fact that between that and IWGP, Stars is not staying the same. We can debate how it's changing, but it is changing. There are a lot of just like clear signposts about things that aren't going to exist anymore with that faction. So just a laundry list of stuff like
they have Hana and Hazuki aren't really hiding that one.
Not at all. Not at all. Holy cow. So gosh, hard to collect my thoughts, but emotionally speaking, I'll go red belt and IWGP. In ring, I really liked how the match played out for white belt and no DQ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I will say this before we get to the tag. Were you uncomfortable in the closing stretch between Hazuki and Hana?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. It was so brutal.
It was. It felt like true hatred. But yeah, thank you for joining me. Before I let you go, you gave me a lot of your time. I greatly appreciate it. Let the people know where they can see your review later tonight if they don't know already. Obviously you do a great job covering Stardom over on your channel. It's always nice when you get to do the live reviews, right? You get to dive into the show like we've been doing here. So let people know where they can find you, whether it be social medias and of course that YouTube show, because the time too. I figured you'd say the time, but the time's very important.
Yeah, no, speaking of time, I appreciate you having me on for such a long span of time. It's always a great experience getting to chat about these things, especially so close to the event itself. And I think we can all just agree that we're trying to do as much justice as we can to this amazing company to really honor the show and cover it in the right way. So we're going to fall short naturally at all points in time, but we're trying. And I think there's a lot of cool stuff that is resulting. So if you want to hear more from me, everyone, String Six Splash is the name of the channel. You can also find me on social media at String Six Splash, Twitter/X, as well as Blue Sky currently. And you can find my series Red Belt Radio. That can be found on YouTube. You can search for either String Six Splash or Red Belt Radio. As was indicated, the show has ended, but I know everyone watching, you want the Stardom story to continue. You want the discussion to continue. So I got you. We've got another All-Star Grand Queendom live stream this evening, 9:00 p.m. Eastern on the String Six Splash YouTube channel. This is almost like an evolving news story because we still have outpourings of messages and reactions from all the wrestlers across the internet There is a press conference looming on the horizon for Stardom. There's still so much to talk about and to speculate about, which is one of my favorite things. So please tune in to String Six Splash. Come to the live stream at 9 p.m. Eastern. And thanks for tuning in.
Thank you so much for joining me. We'll talk about that press conference here in a second, folks. Why not just rip the Band-Aid off, you know? But thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. Truly, truly means the world to having you here. So thank you for that. Everyone go check out the stream, 9 p.m. Eastern, String Six Splash on YouTube. Also, you can check out Red Belt Radio. Either one will get you there. Thank you for joining me. So long, my friend. I'll have you back on soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, folks. Oh, we got to get back to our usual thing. So we, of course, now have Shiro Hashimoto versus Micah for the Sendai Girls World Championship. And I'd like to ask those watching, what were your thoughts on this match? One, because I think for them it was obviously very hard to follow the bloody war that was between Maysara and Suzuki. And I thought it started off a little bit slow, but it ultimately picked up in the end, right? You're going to the power spots between Hashimoto and Micah to the point where I think it's pretty easy to have gotten into the match. Out of the big five, I don't think it was the weakest either. We'll talk about that. Again, placement really had a lot to do with that, I think, as well. But I thought it was a fine, strong, very good match that if you put this on a different show, you're probably walking away from it being very, very happy with this being a main event. But based on what happened before it, what happened after it, it was hard to really, I think, focus on this match for me. A lot of work in the arm and things like that. So, yeah, I had no problems with it. Again, just not my I would keep it away from the top 4 matches of the show, but it still was quite solid. So let me know what your thoughts were on this. Of course, Shiro Hashimoto successfully defended the championship, getting V1. I had thought once Mako lost that or won, I should say, that maybe Chihiro Hashimoto was going to lose, and we're going to do kind of a similar story to Sayori Ano and Miko Wada from last year, but that's not the case. Never doubt Chihiro Hashimoto. She wins, and she wins all the time. And it's very fitting that my next guest is here because it wouldn't be the right time if it wasn't for this wrestler, this match. Peps, welcome to the show. Once again, that is crazy. All right. Welcome to the show. How are you? And what were your thoughts on the show overall and so on and so forth?
First of all, I'm glad to be here. I'm very good. I'm very excited to talk about this fantastic show, in my opinion. It's arguably maybe the best Stardom show we've ever seen from the overall standpoint of quality. Maybe not in the consistency, because I think the point was brought up earlier that the undercard of the 2023 show was much, like, I would say better, but the top 6 matches on the show were just you can put any of these matches on like any given show in Joshi, most of the shows in Joshi this year, and it would be like at least a top 2 match.
Mm-hmm.
But, well, first of all, I need to present my new news that we have. It went under because Stardom fucked up. But Reena, she made her entrance with the 4K camera, and she got her own pose. Can you believe it?
No, I can't. I'm happy you got your joke out of the way. I knew it was coming. You wanted me to bring it up beforehand. I had no reason to bring it up beforehand. But yeah. Yes, congratulations to Rian on being on the 4K camera.
That's all I have. No, but well, since you have already started with the Mako match, I would just jump in.
Yep. Good.
I thought, like, before the match, I was like, okay, she might win. And then they started to work the arm match. And the more and more they went into detail, like into the 10-minute mark with the match, Michael was still on offense, because Michael was like on offense for like the first 60% of the match. Mm. And I was like, okay, she's definitely losing. And from then I was like, okay, I can stop worrying and just watch it and enjoy it. And I think this was the kind of match, and we will come to that with the next two matches as well that would have profited in itself, like from the quality itself, and not like, okay, like who says no to such a match and such a show in front of 7,500 people?
Yeah.
But this and the next two matches are matches that would have been much better if they had the time to get like 2 to 3 minutes more, as well as being really the standalone match on a card rather than, okay, they're just in the middle of the pack. Because let's be real, this is like maybe one of the biggest matches Cinder Girls could have run.
Yeah. For sure.
And
absolutely.
This is, like, on any other card, this would be like, considering to be the main event, considering you have a former World of Stardom champion, the undefeated 5-star reigning 5-star winner against the wrestling Cinder Girls. So them being in the middle of the card kind of hurt the match because they laid it out to be this kind of epic match with Micah going for the arm. I feel like she has found some new motivation with the Bloodsport match in terms of her style.
Yay!
Because she definitely did more submissions than like in the past 12 months combined, and she is someone who usually does submissions, but not like that. So I was pretty surprised about it, but I liked it because it fits to the match itself and what Hashimoto is about.
Sure. Justin Stein, I like this match, but out of the other big matches on the card, I feel like it just didn't quite hit that same mark. The power bomb was nasty. Yeah, Hashimoto put Micah through the damn floor. Looked painful. We got Pedro in the chat, and we got a Rian call. Shouts out. Everyone's happy about Rian. But yeah, let's get. I don't have like the thing with this match is there's not a lot to like take from it. I kind of talked about String earlier. In terms of the Sendai Girl stuff, it's just kind of like we'll see how much this relationship continues. Obviously, Ai Sakura holding the Sendai Girls junior world title, so we'll see what's next between the two sides.
I think the biggest news coming out of it is that Micah T said she's taking time off.
Yeah, I noticed that. I'm gonna guess after Fukuoka, maybe that.
Yeah, I think she's getting the surgery that she has been shitting, or that the doctors told her like 3 years ago.
That elbow has been taped since before the world title match and before the run of to get to the world title and so on.
It has been taped, I believe, before the Utami title match in 2021.
Yeah, it's crazy. Oh, okay. Here's a good question from Orbit Snow. For new fans whose first show was this Queendom event, what years do you recommend to start at, or do we watch from current events? Would watching a favorite wrestler's career be a good idea? Lots of good points here. Lots of good questions here. I think when it comes to starting Stardom, it's really up to you and how you like to learn wrestling. Because I think there's so many great years. I was lucky enough to go through every year and get told the specific matches that I should go out of my way to see, and I've gone back ever since. I think the best thing you can do, especially with how this show went, is to absolutely watch moving forward, because it's going to be a different world. It's going to be a different Stardom. And the world moves so fast, you're kind of getting a fresh slate from here. You're getting a fresh slate. You're getting changes, obviously, up and down the card. You're going to be able to jump in at probably the freshest point you can. Now, I think favorite wrestler's career to go back is always a great idea. That is something that I very much did when I got into Stardom. Obviously, going through Mayu Iwatani's catalog did a lot of good for me. So if you have a favorite, I think that's definitely a good idea. In terms of years, do you recommend to start at? It's very unique because the biggest years in the company's history mostly involve clap crowds. So I don't mind those, but like 2022, that's an incredible year for the company. Up and down, just an incredible year. You have the Kamitani and Syuri runs at the top. You have the Prominence Invasion. You got an incredible 5-star Grand Prix. So it will, and then there's years prior. If you want to go way back, it's 2019. That is a very fond year of everyone. You can go back to the Io Shirai years as well, and her title reign and so on. So I'd recommend for sure if you want to see what Stardom was before Bushi Road. 2019 is a good look. If you want to experience their biggest year before really this one, 2022 is a year I find fun. But if you have a favorite wrestler, go back and watch their career. Go back and enjoy that. And I'd also say current events is definitely the best bet for you. I'd maybe go back and watch some of the stuff from earlier this year. So.
What I normally recommend to people, because I get a lot of DMs about not just Stardom, but in general, is just watch the most recent event or like the most recent big show. Look at the wrestlers that you like from that card. Watch a few of the matches, and if you find another wrestler that you haven't seen before that you like in that match, and continue from there. Like that is how you kind of learn how to learn the roster by going back in history with some interesting matches and all of that. Start with the current event and then work through different kind of wrestlers that you enjoy in that specific moment, because God knows, like maybe like Mayu now, and then like you watch 10 matches and you may notice, okay, you don't like her, which you shouldn't. And then,
if you don't like her, we're gonna have a problem.
Just jump between wrestlers that you think you enjoy, and then that's how you get into the promotion the most.
Yeah, I think that's a good mindset for sure. All right, on to the next. I know a lot of people here might be waiting kind of for maybe the two big matches, so I appreciate your patience for that. We're gonna try to wrap this up around 2 hours, as we often do. Never have actually finished at 2 hours. That's the funny part. So we had the Goddesses of Stardom Championship match. Very personal, very, very personal. Like into a point where it was uncomfortable at times. Saeed and Koguma did their roles, but at the same time, you could tell they were trying to support their partners. Hanan was the least smiley I've ever seen her in my life, besides the press conference leading into this match. This was all seriousness. Hazuki had a smile on her face for a good amount. A lot of no selling. Shouts out to Hazuki for being Hazuki. We love her. So I think that's always entertaining. This match I thought was great. I thought it was great. I think if it gets more time, it can be a tag team match of the year type level. But I did think it was great. And I thought the closing stretch specifically between Hana and Suzuki, while super duper uncomfortable, was absolutely incredible. Like these two were beating the hell out of each other. It was, Suzuki was slapping the taste out of Hanan's mouth. They do the double headbutt spot, and then Hanan just hits the backdrop driver and wins. And I was like, holy hell, what just happened? These are two of the best teams in the entire world. Maybe FWC has arguably been the best team in the entire world for a couple of years now. And when I watch these two teams, and when I watch Saeed hit a muscle buster on Koguma on the apron, right? I'm just like, what are we? This is insane. Like we are raising the bar on the biggest show. And while I do think that this match could have had more time, for sure. This card was very long, but if this match gets a little bit more time, it's a different beast altogether, I think, as well. But overall, I think if you watched this, you walked away pretty satisfied. But if you are a fan of stars like myself, if you are a fan of these two teams, if you're a fan of these wrestlers, it can also be a tough watch for sure. It can be a difficult watch. It can be one that you're just sitting there like, man, I'm kind of sad. I'm kind of sad this is happening. I know that naturally happened to me. But listen, there is true dislike between Hana and Hazuki. There's no doubt about that after this match. But professionally, they got through it. Professionally, they moved through it. I don't know what the future holds for FWC, but it sure seems like there's something changing here for them. Based on their comments, they didn't, there was no handshake. There was nothing. Hazuki moved on. Koguma moved on, and that was that. But Wingori have been fantastic with the Goddesses of Stardom Championships. they deserve all the praise in the world for what they're doing with those belts and re-raising those belts after that title reign last year, or lack thereof, from Momo and Tekla. And I'm excited to see who they face next. But yeah, this was uncomfortable. This was nasty. I don't know what the future holds really in terms of stars. Well, I do, but I don't. It's not good. That's what I can tell you. Stars is not looking great, which is obviously sad. But I do think the long term is Hana will be a leader in some sort, whether that be stars or a new faction. We know that Stardom has been in the business of making new factions, right, and altering names, right. We watched Queen's Quest disappear. We watched Oedo Tai become Hate, and Stars was the last one standing from those real true OG3. So it wouldn't be shocking if that's kind of direction we're going. Again, we'll talk really a lot about that here in a second, but just a really great match and also very uncomfortable to watch. Peps, what are your thoughts?
Hazuki is just insane.
Yeah,
I think she is the best she has ever been.
Mm-hmm.
And that should say something, because, I mean, we are talking about someone that is in the best women's wrestler alive shortlist for like 4 years now again, since she's coming back.
Yeah.
I would say since 2022, because 2021 was pretty short for her. But she has been on another level, and she is showing it again. I think she stole the entire show in this match, even though it was pretty much about giving Hana this big moment, and she deserves it. Like, we don't need to lie here. Anything, the company belongs to Hanan and Starlight Kid.
Yeah,
they made it very clear. They made it with everything they're doing, and that it was another step in it, and it's totally understandable, because they beat here the team in Stardom. We are talking about a team that held the Goddess of Stardom title 3 times, like more than anyone in history. Mm-hmm. And a team that even in times they didn't get pushed big into the tag title division or at all, they still were presented as big threat. So similar to Syuri in some way. Whenever they were in a big match, they were just presented as that. And Hanan getting this big win off this personal feud, like how much of it is shoot or whatever, like only those two know, but they made fans believe it shoot. And that is one of the biggest accomplishments you can have as a pro wrestler, that fans aren't sure, is this a storyline or is this just real? And if you're able to do that, not only in promos, but also in the match itself, while the match itself doesn't fall apart, shout out to Charlotte and Tiffany Stratton at that point, you create a match that is just memorable and special in my eyes. I think Hanan versus Hazuki singles match in any form of way, Hurricane Hall main event, give them 15 minutes in the 5-star. That's like the match that they should run in the 5-star. If Hazuki's in the 5-star still, we will find out more about that soon, I would think. Shout out also to Kokuma and Ida. I think they did the role really well. They were the side characters, but everything they didn't feel like they were side characters in some form. Like, every moment they spent in the ring, they made them important and made them matter in a way that it elevated the match to a level that Hazuki and Hanan can take over and just run it home. And I think all 4 of them should be really proud of what have been done in this match. Hanan and Ida are like the perfect champions. I could see them dropping soon based on, well, there aren't many wrestlers who can dethrone Starlight Kid, to be honest. And I think I'm proposing their next challenge, and I want that to happen. I have been begging for a push for a long time. Kurara wrong wrestler. Rion maybe has a pose, but Rock has a box. Give me Rock Arena versus Hanan and Saida at Yoyogi in June. That's the match I should run.
That'd be a good one. I've thrown out for the past week, 2 weeks. When did the Tam Hanan match happen? 2 weeks ago? Yeah, happened before Vegas. I had thrown out that idea of maybe this was unofficially now a trial match to see if Hana could raise herself to the World of Stardom title picture. And I know a lot of people believe that she should win the Wonder before that. But it's a unique situation that we are in, right? Main eventers are necessary. Main eventers are needed. And we haven't seen a Stars wrestler or anyone from that faction in a World of Stardom title picture in a very, very long time. So I don't know if they're willing to do that, but I think maybe sometime this year they could, especially if she becomes leader. I think there's definitely possibility there. Her and Starlight Kid obviously makes a lot of sense as well. I could see Reena kind of stepping up and being the one that maybe is now in the driver's seat for that belt. Hana's in the driver's seat for the World of Stardom title. These are the things that, not to win it, but to be contending for it in terms of Hana. But I think those are some of the interesting things that come from this show. Is who gets elevated, who is going up to the main event, who is going up to replace someone like a Tam Nakano. You can't replace Tam, I understand that, but you're going to need new names in that top spot. And it's hard to think that one of those names will be like Momo Watanabe right now after how that all went. I'm sure she'll still get title challenges and whatnot. She's had a million over the past year after all. But Hana's someone that I think you kind of circle as a possibility there. In terms of FWC, the future and what the future holds for them, that remains to be seen. We don't know. We don't know. Based on their comments, it feels like, you know, maybe taking FWC to the world rather than just Stardom is very much on the table. They've been working more outside dates, notably. Hazuki's now working the Catch the Wave tournament. I'm sure they'll be in Fukuoka, so I don't think they're walking out of this company or anything, but I think it's interesting that this is happening. I think it's all interesting that this is happening, and I don't see Hazuki and Hanan being in the same faction anymore moving forward, assuming Hazuki and Koguma are sticking around. So those are kind of the directions now we wait upon when it comes to these four.
Honestly, it also makes sense. Like, I don't think they will, like, if the like those are wrestlers, maybe they're just a word saying and it doesn't mean anything. But if it means something, I could easily just see it being like, okay, we don't have anything to do right now with you in Stardom for whatever reason. Like, maybe your planned next faction post Stars isn't happening right now because Micah needs the surgery or whatever, right? Like, if she takes time off, and like during that time they can just raise their stocks outside of Stardom Forbidden and come back. Like, we have seen everything so far in Stardom. Like, nothing is crazy to me anymore. Yeah. And I think that would be like maybe the best solution. I hope they are in Fukuoka, because if Micah and FWC are not in Fukuoka, then Fukuoka could look kind of silly.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think they just team them up, truthfully, on that show. That's my thought process.
They should also put them on the Dotaku show where the Stardom Showcase is.
Oh yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good.
It would be weird. Like,
at least Micah.
You're definitely gonna put Sai Kamitani on there.
Yeah, for sure. You would hope so. I don't need them sending. No offense to her, but I don't need them sending Lady C. And
what about Hanako?
Remember when they did that one year? You remember that when they did the baseball stadium, or they did the Tokyo Dome shows during the summer?
No, there was a baseball stadium thing where they had the Ibushi vs Tanahashi match. Yeah, they ran like Micah and Lady C versus I think Kamitani Watanabe.
Yeah, maybe. Was it Kamitani and Watanabe or Utami? It was one of them.
No, it was Kamitani, I think.
No, I meant, was it Kamitani and Utami? My apologies.
No, it was Kamitani and Momo.
Oh, for sure. Okay.
It was.
I just remember Lady C being on, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah. Second night was then Julia and Syuri versus Momo and Kamitani.
Gotcha. Just to check the comments here. A lot of happiness for the show. I feel like this show is a good starting point for someone. There's a lot of moving parts right now, so going back isn't needed as much, for sure. Hazuki was an absolute powder keg that we were all waiting to see blow up during the match, and it lived up to it. Also, a muscle buster on the apron. Holy bleep. I don't swear. I do swear on the show sometimes, but I'm not going to do it today. Is there still issues between Hazuki and Hana after the match? I surely wouldn't assume they're over by any stretch based on how this went, and there was no hand shaking coming, but we'll see. Oh no. Someone remind me of the conversion. That's never good. Hanan should also keep in mind that she's the wrestler she is today because of the hard upbringing of the early years of training that Hazuki and Kagetsu probably put her through. This is from Big Fat Orange Cat. Welcome back. From the little I've seen of Stardom, one of the wrestlers who stood out to me is Saya Ida, sitting at 4'9" and built like an absolute beast, throwing all of her into everything she does. Yeah, I will say, one of the things I took away from this is like if we're giving Hanako and Sayaka Kurara these big title matches, Saya Ida can challenge for one of these titles. I'm not enough. Like, just let her challenge for one. It'd be sick. It'd be awesome. That's my pitch. I don't care which one. Just I don't need her to win a title. Just let her challenge. Hazuki singles title coming soon. Oh, Andrew.
She has the Spark Joshi belt.
That's
enough. She doesn't get more.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah, I said this on Twitter. I never wanted to admit this because of how much I love her, but I am fully out of hope of Hazuki ever getting the Wonder of Stardom Championship. And maybe that's how things change, right? Maybe that's how we get there. But that's where I'm at. I think we're seeing the trajectory in this company and the focus in this company going a different direction. And of course, that is on some of their future stars. So we'll see. A reminder, the conversion is happening again. That show broke me last year. Oh, I am prepared. Andrew, welcome to hell. That was for the Hazuki comment. This match met expectations. I know you're supposed to spell. Yeah, it did. I think that's kind of the thing. I think some people maybe wanted a little bit more in terms of being like a match of the year contender, but I thought it was great. At the meet and greet, when I mentioned that I believe that Hazuki would win the white belt this year, she said, "That's my belt." Well, I'm still not. That's great, Hazuki. I believe in you, but I don't know. Hazuki damage control. No, don't even. No. Shout out Koguma for taking that muscle buster on the apron. Hazuki white belt or red belt challenger. Hanan also top singles belt challenger. Yeah, so that was that match. I've been kind of pushing this off just generally because it was later in the show, but we have to get to it. We have to talk about it. It was the most emotional I have been watching a wrestling match in a very, very long time. And I know you may say, well, Tam retired in the main event. Well, you guys have to know me by now. It was the IWGP Women's Championship. Mayu Iwatani versus Syuri. This was obviously on paper massive. It's these two running it back from their 5-star classic from last year. But there's so much more to it this time, right? For many of us, to focus on Syuri here for a second, for many of us, we have all been hoping that one way or the other, Syuri could get back into a title picture, right? Since she lost the World of Stardom Championship at the end of 2022, she's had one singles title challenge, and that was for this belt at the beginning of last year. They teased Syuri and Tam before. We didn't do that. Didn't do that. Never even happened. Syuri has essentially been on ice for 2 years. So when the Sari stuff began, there was real emotion there, right? There was real emotion for Syuri as she had tears in her eyes saying, I need to win this belt. I need to beat Sari. I need to get past her. I need to get back to the top, right? And that emotion you could feel in this match. You could feel in the lead up to this match. This was something very big for Syuri, someone who I consider one of the all-timers, truthfully. When she's at the top of the game, I don't know how many people are better. That is how great Syuri is. And it's been so rare that we've seen her at the top of her game over the past couple of years. Seeing her here now was lovely, right? It really was. And then, of course, there was Mayu Iwatani. I have not been very secretive about it. I've just kind of said here and there. I said it on my preview. I think this was it. And Mayu Iwatani could not show emotions. I think when watching Mayu for myself, it's always a little bit more emotional. I know that. But what I saw within everyone watching was a consistent feeling of that. And watching Mayu here 14 years into her career, 14 years since day one in Stardom. Yeah, every emotion hit for me. This was it. This was it. Plain and simple. There's no reason to hide. This was it. Mayu Iwatani, the greatest of all time in Stardom's history, as I've said many times, the greatest of all time. Period. End of story. I've believed that forever because no one has ever made me connect, feel emotions in a match more than her, and like she does every single big match. This was the most emotional I think she's ever been. And they managed to bring so many emotions together, right? So many emotions for each of them that they were feeling in the lead up to this match, within this match, and they went out there and put on an all-time. Like, they, to me, delivered a match of the year that I don't know can be matched for me in terms of emotion. I never thought Starlight Kid and Reena would be top in terms of emotion for me. I firmly should have believed if something like this happens, if a situation like this happens, this was very possible. And what these two did in this match was remind the world why they're two of the greatest. Remind the world why there's a level of greatness to reach. There's a level of purity in what they do within this sport that I think is incredible. And in terms of that, the only person I think I confidently put in there when they're at the top of their games is Syuri. Like, that is the three. There's a reason she was there, and she was killing me, by the way. Like, this is a overly emotional match, right? Everyone's full of emotions. Shuri's full of emotions. Mayu's over emotions. And Syuri's like, what are you guys whining about? I should have been winning this title in the first place. Like, that was the feeling here. This match was incredible. This match was absolutely incredible. It embodied everything that makes Syuri great, embodied everything that makes Mayu Iwatani great, from the big moves to the little nuances throughout their work. This was a title reign that Mayu Iwatani made special. This wasn't a title reign that was supposed to be special. You can't tell me it was. You just can't, right? They made this IWGP Women's title because they felt that they needed to. New Japan wants nothing to do with this championship. In terms of in Japan, Mayu has defended this on a New Japan show twice in Japan, once on a Strong show. She's held this title for 2 years, and that's the case. She willed this title to greatness. She willed this title to importance. She beat Stephanie Vaquer, Utami Hayashishita, Mina Shirakawa. I'm going to name them all off the top of my head, so apologize. Syuri, Syuri, Tsukasa Fujimoto, Momo Watanabe, Azumi, Toni Storm. As Walker Stewart nailed on commentary, she has beaten someone from Stardom, Marigold, WWE, AEW, multiple. Right? complete landscape of this wrestling world, Mayu has beaten within this title reign.
I'm sorry, but you gotta add, she beat the Marigold World Champion right now. She beat the
Oh, yeah.
AWTBS Champion, the New Japan Strong Women's Championess. She beat the 4-time AEW Women's Championess. She beat the NXT Women's Championess.
Yeah.
She beat Mina Shirakawa.
Yeah, she beat me and Azumi. Emma Watanabe. They don't have accolades, I apologize. But she beat all of them within this reign, and she made it matter. She made it special. And I don't think there's anyone more fitting to take this belt off of her than Syuri. Like, yes, you know my love for Syuri. It would have been great. It's obviously what Syuri wanted. But I had no problem with Syuri being the woman to do it. As I watched Mayu lay there and be defeated for the first time in a very long time, it almost felt like at the same time, maybe a weight was lifted finally for her. I know I've seen the emotions. I've seen what these two went through in the post match and how much this meant to her. And Mayu says, it's time for a new path. If you can connect the dots, you know what the new path is. I don't got to spell it out to you. There's enough out there to figure out and connect the dots. There's a match graphic. There's a press conference tomorrow. There's just things that make you all click, okay? And as someone who has sat here for a year and just wanted Mayu to be where she wants to be, because you gotta know, if you know me, nothing matters more to me than her getting to be where she wants and the icon getting to be happy, because that first month or so last year was brutal. It was brutal. It was just hard to get through, and you could tell on her face it was hard to. And now we are at this point, and now we are seeing the emotions again on her face. What are you commenting about? What happened? Why are you laughing?
The recent comment popped me.
Sad to stop touching the tribal peach. Good for her. That was a good one. Anyways, the thing with Mayu is I'm so happy for her. I know there's a lot of emotions going through her again. 14 years in Stardom, 14 years in this company, 14 years leading by example, 14 years being the savior time and time and time again. There is a very, very in-depth thought process I have when it comes to the past 5 years, her run under Bushiroad. I'll save that for another time. But I do also want to congratulate Syuri for winning this championship, for getting back to the top. I want to congratulate Mayu for the incredible reign. I want to congratulate both of them for the incredible match. I know I've been talking super duper long, but you had to expect this when we got to this match. So many emotions, so much. Like I don't even know what happened in the Wonder of Stardom title. I had to watch it like right before I got on this recording because I missed the entire thing. I was so out of it because, again, when you watch someone that you obviously are a big fan of and they go through the emotions, you also go through the emotions naturally. That's the beauty of pro wrestling. That's the beauty of Joshi wrestling. That's the beauty of what these two deliver. So, Peps, before I continue to ramble on, I will let you provide your thoughts about this match. I will let you provide what you thought about this match as well, because I need to take a sip of water.
I think this match was it felt like from the very beginning, everyone in the crowd knew what was happening in this moment. You notice a certain atmosphere the moment Mayu Iwatani was in the ring and started to tear up, that the entire atmosphere in the crowd shifted. I think everyone in the moment realized what is happening right here, and that is that we likely saw the last and final match of Mayu Iwatani's Stardom career, right in front of us, right there in the middle of Yokohama Arena. Everyone got the memo, and you noticed that. And this just makes this match even more special, because with every moment that Mayu fought against this monster in Syuri, a monster that Mayu herself created in the first title match they had against each other, when Mayu completely destroyed Syuri, when Mayu just made Syuri show her limits and made Syuri even train more. And if you know Syuri, you know already that she is already on a monster level, and Mayu forced her to get into the next tier, the tier we have been missing with her. And in every moment Mayu kicked out, in every moment Mayu escaped the submission, it wasn't just about the championship. It was about keeping her Stardom career, the place that she loves the most, the place that she spent like the majority of her life in. She wanted to delay the moment of the final 3 count. And the moment the final 3 count happened, the atmosphere was just special, because it felt like in that moment everyone knew what was happening. And it just, as much as I'm happy for her because she wants to do this, and a wrestler should do what they want to do. And I was always the one who supported her. I was always the one who said, hey, she should just go there if she wants to, because if she wants it, then she should. But now I sit here and just feel like I was kind of even anticipating it until it happened, when it happens. But now I sit here and feel kind of empty, even a little bit sad, because she's the biggest legend coming out of this company in terms of what they did in the company itself. She was the one who stayed there when everything broke down. She had multiple opportunities to left the promotion. She had multiple offers from overseas. In 2018, I think from our age, I'm pretty sure they wanted her. 2019, AEW wanted her. She could have retired like in 2020. She could have retired 2021, 2022, 2023. Like, she has said so many times, okay, I'm about to retire. I think even in 2016. And she stayed. She stayed during every crisis because she loves this company, wants to carry the company to another level. She stayed when the entire Yoshiko thing happened, when the company was about to die. She stayed during COVID. She stayed during whatever happened in 2022 when everyone retired, when everyone left. She stayed last year, even though she was forced to stay, but she stayed. She just could have not appeared at work anymore. And she got... The past 14 years have been special for her. And everything broke down at that moment. And that is it. And she went out with maybe one of her best matches ever, and one of her best performances ever, against someone in Syuri who showed again why she has been praised as one of the best wrestlers ever, who sadly we haven't seen many singles matches since she dropped the red belt in 2022. And she stepped up, she won the IWGP belt, she found her groove again, and now can follow up this incredible Mayu Iwatani title reign that it felt like Bushiroad did everything in her power to make it not special, but she is just so good that she made it special.
Yeah. I think looking back at this past year and the way people have reacted to the idea of her leaving has been at times wrong. I can understand if you want her to stay in Stardom because you love Stardom. I get that. But I always had a problem with some that were like, it feels wrong for her to leave. And it's like, no. You should always root for a wrestler to go where they want to go, right? You should always root for a wrestler to go where they feel right. And there is no doubt that in the past year, it's not felt the same for Mayu Iwatani. And while we can look at, you can look at the Tokyo Sports articles and whatever. Oh, I'm staying for another year. I felt I needed to stay. At the end of the day, she had to. There was a movie to present, right? Her movie came out and all these things. And she put in some of the best work of her career because that's who she is. Some people say she took time off. Oh, she didn't put it all. What did you want her to do? She was on ice pretty much after the Tsukasa match. right? Because the summer was about to end. The movie was, for the most part, out of theaters, right? And she didn't defend again until Momo, and then Azumi at Wrestle Kingdom. And I said, I'm so happy she got to have that Wrestle Kingdom match because she got it taken away from her last year, and I didn't care what the time was on the match. I didn't care how long it lasted. It's the fact she got to walk down that entranceway, step into that ring, and perform, right? That's what matters. Again, I forever will be what's best for Mayu Iwatani before what's best for a wrestling promotion. Plain and simple. So this isn't me picking sides of a wrestling promotion. No, this is me picking sides of Mayu Iwatani always and forever. This was an emotional match. This was a beautiful match. This was an incredible match for both of these two. And I applaud both of them for what they've done. I applaud both of them for where they've brought Stardom, right? They've been a big part of bringing Stardom to another level over the past 5 years. Mayu Iwatani, like Pep said, has been there for every bump and bruise along the way, and she has more often than not been the one to step in and save the day. That is what she does. That is what she always did, and that's part of the reason you saw her so emotional. I'm excited to see, obviously, what is next for her truly in terms of her career and the steps she makes and where she goes and what she does, because
She's
as she
laying
showed
down
here,
for the tribal chief. No, for the tribal peach. I'm sorry.
as she tried here, as she showed here, she's at the best form she's ever been at. Somehow, some way, the woman who I have watched for 8-9 years have some of my favorite matches of all time is the best she's ever been. Now, it's unfair how great she is, but that's why she is the greatest of all time. And now she has potential new roads, potential new matches, potential new journeys, something that I, who will forever call her my favorite wrestler of all time, am excited to see her go down. I'll go to the comments. I've been holding off. I know some people may be upset. I know some people may be whatever, but listen, I get it. If that's the case, most people are very happy. Most people are very happy for Syuri, which is great. So here are your comments. We had Mr. Mystic, Syuri Nation, we pack. So happy Syuri has a singles title again after being dormant 2 years. Big match Syuri was heavily missed for me, man. Really hope she gets some cool defenses in this reign. Absolutely. I'm fearful it's a one and done. But that would be criminal. I think if it was a one and done, I think it should be played out during the summer. And I think it will be, but we'll wait and see. She absolutely deserves a strong reign as champion. There's two things in wrestling that are unlike any other: a Will Ospreay match and a Mayu Iwatani match. So happy for Syuri, well deserved. Justin Stein, both of them threw absolute bombs at each other the entire match. Awesome stuff. Syuri really met me, and she won the IWGP 9 days later. Wow, my power. Mr. Mystic, Mayu deserves all the flowers for all the hard work she put into this belt, and hope she got some very exciting things for her on this new path. Mayu decided stop dodging the tribal peach. We talked about that one earlier. I'm glad that the Wonder match was in between this one and the main event, because I couldn't have survived all the emotions of both matches being one after the other. Yes, I totally agree with that. I wanted Mayu to pass on the icon mantle. Syuri, I felt like she was trying to say that. Yeah, she in many ways was trying to say you are kind of now the top vet, right? You are the one to protect moving forward now that I'm here. But listen, Mayu's the icon of pro wrestling, so that sticks. That's not going anywhere. Mayu did just about everything she possibly could in Stardom, so for her to want change the stream makes sense. She could continue to build her overall legacy even more. Two-time World of Stardom champion, two-time Wonder Stardom champion, two-time Cinderella tournament winner, one-time 5-star Grand Prix winner, the first to ever hold both the Wonder and World of Stardom titles at the same time, SWA title winner, multi-time Goddesses of Stardom title winner, multi-time Artists of Stardom title winner, IWGP Women's Champion, the longest reigning IWGP champion in history. Yeah, She's done everything and more and doubled it and tripled. Like, that's the thing. She's done it all. You gets the honor of wrestling Go Chica. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's one and done, which is sad. But just like Poi, I'll be happy it happened. That's in terms of Syuri's title reign. Yeah, just obviously, if you know me, if you followed this show for a long time, you knew this was going to be an emotional one for me. YouTube.com/@ScottEWrestling. I'm just telling you now, you're going to want to be over there this week. Going to have a lot of content put together. We have a busy, still Fallout. Obviously, Mako's retiring also on Tuesday. We'll be covering everything over there with some bonus content. And then, of course, the 5-Star Joshi Show next Friday. We'll talk about that as well. The fact that we have 2 matches after this is absurd. But let's quickly say, sorry, Syuri, that is happening. That is not shocking. We knew that was coming. That's exciting. Feels like to me the reason this didn't happen at this show, which is because Syuri is going to be a big part of helping, obviously, be a draw for Stardom post Tam and probably likely. I already said, yeah, it's probably both post Tam and Mayu and Mina. You know, like, we just add them all in, right? All the rest of those that are gone.
I was thinking the main reason is just that they wanted Mayu to put over a Stardom talent on her way out.
For sure.
But,
yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
That too. But just an incredible show, an incredible match, an incredible post match. One that if you didn't watch it, make sure you do. Really just fantastic. Now Ishikawa versus Mayu. Yeah, there's a lot. This is the thing. My excitement levels are here. Like, some people might have felt empty after this. I felt full because for me, again, after a year of doing this and following Mayu, this was always going to happen. It was always going to be emotional, but it's now happened, and I'm very excited for what's next because, boy, oh boy, do I want Mayu Iwatani doing a lot. It's been a long time. I know she's been champion for 2 years, but it was so sporadic. She still only had 9 defenses in 2 years, right? Well, 10 she lost here, but I digress. Anyways, let's get to the next match. That was Starlight Kid versus Azumi for the Wonder of Stardom Championship. I'll be perfectly honest with you. Didn't watch it the first time because I was so mentally out of it. Watched it right before this. And the problem for me is that Starlight Kid is still very clearly injured. And that makes me sad, obviously. You know, she's still very taped up. She's been injured since the Natsupoi match. That was in December. And you knew she'd fight through. You knew she'd come through for this. And they just had such better matches in their run. I can understand anyone that really enjoyed this for sure. I get it, right? Lots of big moves. Azumi really tried to carry it, you know, with Starlight Kid doing what she could. But they were in the roughest placement humanly possible. They were between what we saw before this and what we saw after. The crowd was completely drained and right in preparing themselves for that main event. So I think that hurt it a lot as well. And they did their best of trying to make this match again different from everything on the card. It's a match that, again, if you really enjoyed it, I wouldn't be shocked. I don't think it came close to their best because I know what their best is. I know that they could wrestle their best when they're 100% to be different and they aren't following the emotional IWGP Women's Title match. Yeah, so it didn't hit the levels I wanted, but it was kind of expected. They did not get the good spot on this card, and that's just how it goes sometimes. So I have no problem with it. Starlight Kid winning. I just hope she's okay. Like, she is obviously in rough shape. I think that's very apparent if you watch her and you saw her at the beginning of the year and you kind of have seen her, you know, post Reena match. She seems a little bit more beat up and really just pushing herself through it. I'd like her to take the time to take care of herself if that's possible, but she's still Wonder of Stardom champion, so that's going to be hard to do. Azumi will have her time, maybe, probably, who knows? But Starlight Kid is now your leader of Neo Genesis, as expected. I think that kind of gave away who was winning this match, because that was born to be SLK's faction. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that. I'm saving all my emotions now here to talk about the main event. So Peps, make this one quick, then we'll get to the main event.
Well, I really don't want to be mean. Like, the match was good. Don't get me wrong. But
It was the weakest for me out of the
top 6.
Yes.
No, I would even say top 7. I thought it was...
Oh, the Mako one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was just... They tried to do the high-speed stuff, like the high-speed match, high-speed epic they had, like this 70-minute match, but dragged it on for another 3 minutes. But on top of that, added...
A lot of kickouts.
Added a lot of leg selling that Azumi just no-sold. My original name was something that some joke that Azumi doesn't sell her leg, but I went with Rihanna instead. And of course, Starlight Kid is not at 100%, so that the entire high speed stuff was not at like 120%, but at 80. And high speed, if you do high speed at 80%, you notice a difference. I think the other part, it just hurt them, and that is nothing they can do against. And this is just booking, in my opinion, kind of. But otherwise, summer main event in the Yokohama Arena is as big as it get for white belts. Like, you gotta remember, last year at Osaka Queendom, they were the white belt was under the IWGP, same for 2023. So it's not like it elevated the belt above the IWGP, especially such a big match in the match, like in the match structure, is very cool. But it was also maybe the biggest mistake she could have gone, because following a match where everyone in the crowd realized, okay, that it's Mayu's last match, doing a legwork segment just wasn't maybe the best idea. Starlight Kid, I know you are a great friend of El Desperado, but don't do his match layouts one by one, because it doesn't work. People don't sell legs. I thought it was good, though. I have like a lot more to complain that, considering how I really viewed it, but sometimes you gotta be a bit more critic here.
Yeah, I mean, again, when it comes to these two, they put them where they did because, one, the Wonder has elevated. Two, based on what's probably coming up, they probably wanted to feature their two young future talents higher. And three, if anyone was going to try and follow the IWGP, I guess it would have been them. Oh, also, they weren't going to do IWGP and World back to back with what was happening, right? You just couldn't do that emotionally.
They should have placed the intermission after the IWGP match.
I agree. I totally agree. But yeah, that is just kind of how it goes with these things. I know they have better in them. I want Starlight Kid to be better. I want Azumi to get her moment sooner than later. Hello, Maria. Welcome. Azumi's time is coming right around the corner. I see purple in her future. Yeah, they could give her the strong belt. I don't see why not. She could pin Mina, or Mina's going to pin her. That's what I expect either way. But that's not, it's not the level you want. You want her to win the Wonder. I saw a lot of people upset that Azumi lost on the timeline. But
I think
that they're behind.
I think the purple was not because of the title, but because she is purple.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. Either way, I will say this. Starlight Kid seems to be the kind of one in the driver's seat to be the number 2 now behind Saya Kamitani in this company. We'll hopefully see that her body can let that happen right now. Again, I'm very worried about that. I think it's her shoulder. It's her arm. It's her whole. It's just a lot. She seems to be beat up at probably multiple places. The reason she took time off, but I'm wishing her the best. Let's get to the main event. The main event of the evening: career versus career. No time limit. The loser will retire. No retirement road. No retirement ceremony. Nothing. It's over. It's finished here. Once and for all. That is what this match was. 26 minutes and 9 seconds. Saya Kamitani defeating Tam Nakano to defend the World of Stardom Championship and end the career of Tam. This is one of those very interesting things. And I know some people saw the tweet of me tweeting 0-4-3 against Mayu Iwatani in her career. But in all seriousness, I didn't know how I was going to feel when the Tam retirement happened, because it's been a rocky road with Tam as a fan. I've had my moments where I've really appreciated her work, and sometimes I'm like, eh. But it was very clear to me as she made that entrance down to the ring, oh, I'm going to be emotional for this all over again. And while it was a different emotions for sure, because of obviously, this is a retirement compared to elsewhere, it was still very emotional because this is as Tam as it gets, guys. This was as Tam as it gets for all the right reasons. I don't think you'd want her to retire in any other way, right? You want her to retire in the most Tam road, Tam lore, whatever you want to say version, right? That's exactly how you want to see this end. And that's exactly how this ended. The match was dramatic. The match was exciting. The match was scary. We had Saya Kamitani coming out with the most insane entrance. Just this is their star of their company, and Tam has made sure that this happened, and she's done such a great job. I think that's the one credit I will give Tam Nakano more than anything. She had a plan, right? For the past couple of years, it seems. She always had a plan to make Saya Kamitani the next big star. And boy, oh boy, has she. Saya Kamitani has now won, outside of the injured match in the 5-star Grand Prix, she won 6 straight singles matches against Tam. If that injury doesn't happen, that is potentially 7 straight singles matches wins against Tam Nakano. That is crazy. That is dedication. That is care. That is believing in someone. And that is clearly what Tam has done with Saya Kamitani. This match, I didn't know how it was going to end. That was kind of the interesting thing to me. Now, I will say the number one worry heading into this show was gone before we got to the match itself. Sayaka Kurara uses the wish after her match in a backstage segment. She would face the winner of the World of Stardom title match. I understand it because they had an entire pre or post match planned for this, obviously, and the way they did it. But that was fascinating. Like, you kind of, for me, it kind of like, I think it ramped up the emotions because, like, oh, there's no saving her. This is it. Like, someone is retiring. This is it. And I think that was kind of something that the match needed as well. I didn't want the wish to come into play, right? You wanted to have this moment of, again, finality. This is what this show was all about. Endings to multiple stories, endings to multiple aspects of people's careers, and for Tam, her entire career. It was physical, it was hard hitting, it was Tam. And when I say it's Tam, it's like, if you've watched every big Tam match, there are Tam specialties, right? We're gonna go on that ramp, and we are gonna run down that ramp, and we are gonna hit a violet shoot knee. That is what we are gonna do, right? We are going to do all these little nuances, but we're also going to beat the piss out of each other because that's what we do. Slapping each other across the face, the headbutts at the end. I was like, oh my God, I said this earlier, but I was like, okay, one of you are retiring, not both of you. This is incredibly insane. Like, please be careful. Please be careful. Just absolute nonsense. And then Saya Kamitani, another point of the match, obviously, is her teasing the Phoenix Splash, but not being able to do it. A great great point in the match. And then, of course, Saya Kamitani winning the match with the Twilight Dream to pin Tam and end her career. Peps, I know you also had a similar rocky up and down watching of Tam, but I know you can also appreciate what she's done, what she's brought to the table, her drawing power and all that. So I'll let you talk about this match and ultimately the end of Tam Nakano's career.
I think we can all agree on that. There's always like this big ego talk in the room when we talk about Tam Nakano. Like the Tam wins stuff is like not coming out of nowhere. But
Right.
similar to, and I've made this comparison to Alex, and Alex hasn't replied to me, but so I will make it here. Like Tam protects herself a lot. But there's always like one person she always put over in every opportunity she has. If it's in promo segments, if it's in matches, if it's whatever, in Tokyo Sports. Then was Saya Kamitani. It was her own student, pretty much. The one that she made. Tam Nakano is the reason why Saya Kamitani is on the level she is. Tam Nakano is the reason why Saya Kamitani is even wrestling. Tam Nakano is the mentor of Saya Kamitani. It reminds me of the relationship Mako Satomura has with Chihiro Hashimoto. In the same way as that Mako made Hashimoto. Like, she is protective about herself against anyone else. But if there's one wrestler she always is okay with losing, if she always is okay with putting her over, and always is okay with putting her to the next level, then it was Chihiro Hashimoto. She's like, what? 0-4 against Hashimoto? And that is just something that rarely happens in Joshi these days, that you have the old generation putting over the new generation when the time is right, and constantly. Like, of course, Tam Nakano is winning matches because she's the biggest star in the company. Like, it's the same reason why Naito is winning all these big matches, but when they are needed to put over a new star, they are okay with it, and they have their favorite. And of course, Saya Kamitani is the favorite. And Saya Kamitani was someone who was not always as beloved as she's right now. Even as a babyface, she was always one of the more controversial names in Stardom fan bases. There were many fans that didn't get her. There were many fans that wanted to see others getting pushed over her. I was one of them for a long time. But she proves everyone wrong. Like, we are talking about the person, Saya Kamitani, who got the red belt shot in Nippon Budokan like 3 months after she challenged for the Future of Stardom title. No one thought she was ready, and she went out and had a fantastic match. Every time people doubt Saya Kamitani and Tam Nakano, they always top themselves. I thought, okay, I don't see how they can top their last match because it was just the work rate, it was the storytelling, it was the atmosphere, it was everything. And they went out there and had one of the most emotional and story-driven matches you can see in pro wrestling, maybe even in entire pro wrestling history. Everything they did was on point. Like, the in-ring work itself wasn't something that reinvented the wheel. Like, they pretty much did the spots they've done in the past. Like, the Hurricane Rana to the outside was pretty much copied from the spot in the Hurricane match. The hanging spot, all of them, like everything they did pretty much was done before. But the extra emotion they've added in with the stipulation, with the fans knowing this is the last stand of Tam Nakano, just made this match so much better than it could have been, or like I expected it to be. I think this is the match that describes Tam Nakano the best, and this is the match that elevates Saya Kamitani into the final level of stardom that was missing. I think after her run, we will talk about Saya Kamitani as the biggest star that Stardom maybe has created in terms of star power inside Japan. She's on a run right now that should not be stopped anytime soon. And I think if there are the opponents for it, if she keeps herself that hot, we are talking about someone who should go another year with the title.
Yeah, Saya is my favorite case of no matter the regime that ran Stardom, they always believed in her. You know, like she was gonna win the 2023 Five-Star Grand Prix before she got hurt and faced Tam Nakano at Stardom Dream Queendom 2023. Um, like that was a thing, you know, pretty soon after she ended the Wonder of Stardom title reign. Fast forward, you go down the heel angle, and I remember I have admitted how wrong I was. I ate shit for that one. Little did I know what that would become, and I think through her own work and Tam's work and the company's work, she has become a massive star. But no one deserves more credit than Saya herself. But boy, oh boy, does Tam deserve uh almost just as much for what she has done to help put over Saya Kamitani as the next big star, and to talk about the final scene, obviously, and the emotions after the match, and them crying. And I said in the lead up, and I said in the preview, I was like, you all have to know, like there are going to be so many tears. Saya Kamitani, while she's a heel, she is so emotional. She's always been so emotional. She's gonna tear up. She's gonna be devastated. Again, this is someone who this is why she's in pro wrestling. This woman is why she's here. She said it before the match. You could see the emotions on her face midway through the match. Tam is doing her best, right? She is straight face. Come on, hit me. And Saya is like, she's like literally on the brink of tears, and she's like, all right, I gotta get through this, you know. And it's like, man, that's special, you know. I have no problem if you consider this the match of the year, this the match of the night. It depends on your emotional investment, and it depends on how you like the match. But I will say, no matter what, this was a phenomenal match. This is one of the best matches of the year for me. It's one that I do want to rewatch because, again, I was still a bit reeling from previous, but also I think it's a match that if you know how it went and you just kind of experience it again, you'll also appreciate it in more different ways. The final scene, as you can see on the screen here, this will probably be up in podcast form as well, but if you could see it on the screen here, incredible. The best closing scene of a wrestling show I've ever had. It was Tam to a finish as Tam and Saya Kamitani walk up the runway and they just sit at the top, and the crowd and it goes dark, right? And you're seeing it was like feathers or something falling. I don't really know what it was. And it's Tam to the very end. She had said, if I lose this match, if I have to retire, then then this is it. This is how it's gonna be. This is what it's all about. And I think that's the beauty of pro wrestling and the beauty of what Tam does is an ending like this. You can have your problem with Tam, whatever, but there's no doubt this is one of the great ends, because when that light goes out, that is Tam confirming everything she said. When I'm done with pro wrestling, I go into darkness, I go away. And Saya Kamitani was right by her side, standing right next to her. And that was really emotional, and that was really perfect. And I want to applaud everyone involved in accomplishing this. I think it's super duper special what they accomplished. And just a credit to Tam Nakano, whose career I will be talking about in different ways over the next couple weeks. I have some plans for that. I didn't want to prepare anything because, you know, the wish was a thing, and I wasn't fooling myself. Tam's Tam, you know, you never know. But she held up to her end of the deal. She put Saya Kamitani over a major, major way. And listen, I'm gonna miss her. I'm gonna miss Tam Nakano. Joshi's gonna miss Tam Nakano. Stardom's gonna miss Tam Nakano. It's insane that it's over. You know, I tweeted this, but she kind of became, her retirement kind of became like a mirage. Like it was one of those things she talked about years and years. I remember when she was Wonder of Stardom champion, she said, and I quote, "I plan to retire in 2 years." Those 2 years went by. She was now World of Stardom champion and so on. And like I was like, okay, sure. But she's now retired. It's now over. And it's a credit to her. And I just want to shout out Walker Stewart one more time, who did an incredible job of letting the moment breathe once it was over. But he did tweet, it is because of Tam Nakano that Saya Kamitani has reached darkness, and it's because of Nakano that Kamitani has seen light. And I thought that was a great final line. I thought he did an incredible job. I thought these two did an incredible job. I thought the entire show was incredible. It is not only the show of the year for me, but it's going to be tough to beat. It's an all-timer show. It's, you know, it mirror it. It's right there, if not higher than Stardom All-Star Grand Queendom 1, because of different reasons, because of the emotion and the finality and the connection there. You can say either one's the greatest show in Stardom history. I'm not going to argue, but absolutely phenomenal. Let's get to these comments here real quick. Very, very good storytelling from from Tan to Saya, and now to Sayaka that wants a shot at the red as her Cinderella wish. I had said that, by the way. I just want to point that out. I said if she won, her wish should be challenging for the World of Stardom title. Maybe she's trying to face Saya, who ended her career, obviously. Thank you, Pedro, by the way, on the Tekla Fightful post. Breaking news, everyone. She's going to America. Thank you. This is about Tam right now. The closing moments of the show are amongst the most beautiful I've ever witnessed as a professional wrestling fan. The last 4 wrestlers are the ones that caught my eye and why I tuned into Stardom. For someone who knew nothing going in, the match and the ending was incredible and emotional. Saya is her. Hello to Mita. That was the Tam Road ending. You are absolutely right. Made the stream on time. Totally. Thank you, Hendrix, for joining. Tam is the biggest draw since Akira Hokuto. Minami Toyota. Hopefully, Mayu doesn't announce she's leaving tomorrow. Oh, Matt, it's over. If you are upset, I understand people are going to be upset. I recommend going back and listen to that part. I'm super happy for Tam to wrap up her career her way. I'm super happy for Mayu Iwatani to continue her career her way. I'm super happy for Saya Kamitani to be a part of this moment. I'm super happy for Syuri to be champion. And the list goes on and on and on and on. Those 2 matches I will remember for a very long time. Those 2 matches are the reason that this show will be remembered forever. And, you know, Tam Nakano, listen, she is one of Stardom's all-time greats for a reason. Love her or hate her. She did everything her way. And she went from truly someone who was, she's a nice part of the card to undeniably an incredible draw, an accomplished draw. And I applaud her for everything she's done. Peps, do you have any final thoughts here as we wrap up this show and get out of here?
I have 2 things to say. First of all, I think the final shot is something that pro wrestling fans will remember for a long time. It's something it's not a wrestling trope what they did, and that is what it made so stand out, because when have you ever seen something like that in terms of retirements and all of that? So it was just perfect. The second thing is, I want to say Ryan still has a career, Tam Nakano doesn't. Thank you.
That is true. I'm happy you kept true till the end as well. But thank you, everyone who has tuned in for this show, 2 hours, 22 minutes. I want to thank String Six Splash for joining us. Make sure you check out his stream over at 9 p.m. Eastern on his YouTube channel. I want to thank you, Peps, for joining me here today to talk about this. Obviously, people know where to find you on social medias and everything, but
do you think Britt Baker read my tweets about Stardom?
But if you have any plugs, feel free to do them now.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at peps_wrestling. I would imagine I will write something about the show for Wrestle Purists. I hope so. All about how much Uni stresses me out this week. But yeah, you will find all my stuff there, my tweets, my clips. I tweet normally about everything that you can imagine pro wrestling. Also check out Senka Katsuki. Thank you.
Those are good plugs. Yeah, it's gonna be a big week. It's going to be a big week. It's going to be a big May. I've been saying it, said it since the end of March. April and May are going to be two of the biggest months we've seen in Joshi. There was two guaranteed retirements that became, of course, three of some of the best wrestlers of the past 20 years. Changes among us. Stardom's going in a new road. Stardom's into a new era. This show was the end of an era for Stardom. This show and these 2 months are an end of an era for Joshi, but there's so much future talent, there's so much exciting talent, there's so much hope and hopefulness and excitement to go along. I am excited for the future as someone who covers all these promotions. I'm excited for what's next. So I will say this before we go. Check out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@ScottEWrestling. I will be clipping some of this show as is. This will also be available on MP3 if you listen to some of it, not all of it, and you're just here now. This will be up hopefully by the end of the day, if not tomorrow, on the Fight Game Media Network feed. And like I said, you're going to want to check out the YouTube channel because I'm going to do a lot of content this week. I hope to do some sort of covering of Tam's overall career in some video form, whether it just be to talk about her biggest and best matches or moments or whatever. I do plan to do that. Same goes for Mako Satomura. Hopefully, there's so much going on. There's too many retirements going on at once. But it's a good time to be invested in Joshi wrestling. It's a good time to jump into Joshi wrestling. It's why I recommend my YouTube channel. I recommend the work Peps does. I recommend the work String Six Splash does, and many, many others. I'll shout out my friends over at Stardom Quest. I'll shout out my friends over at Stardom Cast. I'll shout out the many YouTube channels and YouTube videos that you can check out talking about Stardom, TJPW, Mari Gold, Sendai Girls, whatever it may be. There is so much great content out there. If you are just getting into Joshi with the show, if you're just getting to Stardom with the show, there are so many great people out there creating. There's so many people putting their time into the work. So definitely check that out. So one last plug for myself, youtube.com/@ScottEWrestling. Bravo to Tam Nakano. Bravo to Mayu Iwatani, Syuri, Saya Kamitani, Starlight Kid, Hazuki, Hanan, the whole crew, everyone. Congratulations on an incredible All-Star Grand Queendom show that we will never forget. One of the great all-time shows in not only Joshi history, but pro wrestling history. We'll get through the final comments real quick here. Just so I don't miss anything. Till next time, thank you for joining us. Have a good day. Woke Quest. I'll be awake for the conference. It's in 8 hours. Yes. If there's big news from the conference, are you going to make a video or will it be on the 5-star? I will be making a video. Guaranteed.
I will force Scott to go live. It's at like
I
2 p.m.
honestly, if it was like at a normal time, I would, but it's like that's no one's awake for that. Like there's not a like it would just be me at that point. But I will be putting together a video that will be on the YouTube channel. So thank you for asking, Andrew. Definitely keep an eye out on that. We'll be doing a lot of content moving forward. Thank you, everyone. Shout out to Stardom. Shout out to All Star Grand Queendom. All these great wrestlers. Until next time, everyone. So long. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.